Hi, I'm WELS President Mark Schrader. Back in the year 1850, a small group of Lutherans from just a handful of churches gathered in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, to establish what we later called the Wisconsin Evangelical Lutheran Synod. Now, this upcoming year, in 2025, our synod will be celebrating its 175th anniversary. That's 175 years of God's grace and 175 years of Christ through us.
Welcome to St. John's, big building. It's been around for a while. The original founders of St. John's, they came largely from Germany.
Isaac Hayes is the pastor at St. John's on the hillside in downtown Milwaukee, an historic church in the Wisconsin Synod.
The two in particular that I will point out here are pastor President Johannes Bading, and then also Pastor President John Brenner. These were two of our Synod's presidents, as well as I believe Streisguth was also a synodical president in our history too. So St. John's also has the nickname of the Church of Presidents. Well, that's the reason why.
Since being called to St. John's a few years ago, Pastor Hayes has looked into the congregation's nearly 2 centuries of history. But he wouldn't consider himself a historian or even a history lover.
But the things that I would be geeking out about is, whoa, there's something to learn here. What is this all about? Why is this here? Why is this so beautiful? Or what's the purpose behind why this was built the way it is? Or what's the symbol behind this piece of art or piece of structure on a building, whatever it may be? You can seat 1,100 people in this space. And so that really communicates to me, wow, they really want a lot of people to come and gather and hear about Jesus.
As our synod gears up to celebrate an important milestone, it provides an opportunity to look back and consider the ways that God has worked in WELS and through WELS with an anniversary theme of Christ through us.
I think Christ through us just shows how God can take a group of incredibly sinful human beings throughout the course of 175 years and use them to share His word, to spread His word, to bring people to faith.
When looking back at our history, we can see God's love for us as He worked out everything for our good, even during times of struggle.
When WELS broke with the Missouri Synod in 1961, probably one of the biggest benefits from that break was that it forced the Wisconsin Synod to kind of stand on our own feet. We had to all of a sudden be doing mission work throughout the nation. We had to start producing our own publications that we weren't doing so much of before. It forced us to even consider more world missions.
This is the Synodical Conference, 1914.
From the big moments to the small moments, we can see our Savior's plan unfolding throughout them all.
Looking back at the history, you see how God takes the smallest act, the smallest, what might seem insignificant at the time, and He uses that for His good. You know, decisions that are made at the synod level, at synod conventions, down to decisions that are made in your local congregation. God uses all of those decisions for His good. This is the original Constitution with the signatures.
And just as we can see God's gracious hand working in the history of our synod, looking back at history can also show us how He's worked in our own lives.
One decision made differently can change the course of a person's life. And everybody has those moments in their life where they look back and they think, gosh, God really had His hand in helping me come to that decision. This one is fun.
From eternity, God has been shaping our own personal history, that we may come to know who He is, how He saved us, and have a relationship with Him.
And it might be through a family that has been around for a while, where the gospel has been proclaimed to that family and it's been passed on to generation. Or it might be that it was through a spouse or a friend who first brought you into contact with Christ and His gospel. God worked, and you kind of think of all the different ways that it had to happen so that you came into contact with the gospel.
For me, it's really important to look back and learn. Now, there's a difference between looking back and learning and looking back and staying there. I can't stay in the past. If I stay in the past, well, then nothing gets done in the present.
And when we prayerfully ask him to give us that guidance, there's no telling what he can do. He can take a small synod that started in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and make us known internationally and have church bodies that we are in fellowship with all across the world. And that started with 3 pastors in Milwaukee, Wisconsin in 1850. And that's amazing. That's amazing.
We can't help but thank God for his perfect guidance and immeasurable blessings on our synod over the last 175 years. A number of resources are being put together to celebrate this milestone, including, but not limited to, a pictorial history book, short videos, and worship resources. Watch for these to be made available in 2025 at wellshistoricalinstitute.org/175th.